Hey everybody, I'm Chris Metzler, one of the programmers with SF Indie Fest, and we're lucky enough to share with you the wonderful movie Timestalker, and we're lucky enough to have Alice Lowe here. Welcome, Alice.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Um, Maybe a good place to start. What was kind of your kind of creative inspiration to kind of take on this film?
Um, it was 8 years in the making, this film, so it was a long time, and a lot of things happened. There was COVID, there was lockdowns, I had another baby, um, and I think I wanted to make a film that was fun on a surface level. I wanted it to be colourful and bright, and I was really inspired by the films of Powell and Pressburger, and I was like, what would the modern day version of that be? Like a modern day kind of fairy tale fable, a fantasy. And I just think not enough fantasy films are made. I really love it as a genre. And I think because of budgetary requirements and people thinking, is there enough of an audience for a fantasy movie, that people are reluctant to do them now. But it was something that really influenced me growing up. And um, I really wanted to do something that encapsulated as many things as I could possibly get into a film. As many
That's
different
an
eras
awesome film.
and sort of wish fulfillment stuff, like stuff that fantasy wish fulfillment stuff, because we were all locked down and trapped, and the only place to go is in your mind and your imagination, and I guess that gave birth to the character, really.
Nice. Well, the thing that I always find really interesting about it, it's the sort of film that it must be fun to kind of share when you're at like a backyard party or something like that, in the sense of it inspires so many different things in the viewer's head before seeing it. You mentioned that, you spent about 8 years kind of developing the film. Did the underlying story change at all, or did it just kind of just add details and layers of things over that time?
I think it was adding layers, really. I sometimes think of it as like a patchwork quilt, it was like something that just got more embroidered. It was joining the eras together to make one big whole. And like the more connections there were across the eras was really fun, and sort of making things tally. And that was the joy of the production design as well, was like reusing actors and reusing props and reusing locations, and sort of recycling as a metaphor for reincarnation. There's a sort of metaphysical recycling going on. Yeah, I think it was that, really, because really the central idea never changed. This idea, and for me, it's a lot about acting and being in the film industry. That it's something where you die many deaths, and your career can die, and you have to reinvent yourself and recreate yourself. Um, and especially in that era where we're going through lockdown, and a lot of these industries still haven't really fully recovered. Cinema hasn't fully recovered. I don't think the British film industry has really struggled as well, and British TV and film industry.
Mm.
So for me, it was kind of like this metaphor of what do we chase, like when we're making films. We're chasing a crazy dream. I think most of us that love film, it's an early love affair, like an early crush that we've had since childhood, that we just chase and chase. And is it good for us? I have no idea. Right, sometimes it's not. Sometimes like a silly dream that reality's never going to live up to it, kind of thing. So it's sort of playing with all of those ideas, really.
And once you started production on it, like, what do you think most surprised you about um, the making of the film that you just kind of you couldn't even have imagined after even those years getting a chance to think about
I guess probably how unfit I was after 8 years of like lockdown and having another baby. I was suddenly like, oh, I've got to run across this hill. And even though it doesn't look like a very steep hill, it's actually quite dangerous. And I'm not Tom Cruise, and I haven't got a personal
it.
trainer, and I haven't really got up to speed. It's just like quite a long time to sort of be going, oh yeah, acting's really demanding, and directing is demanding, obviously. But it was more the acting part that I was like, oh yeah, I've got to do that as well. I mean, I work as an actor. That is my day
Right.
job, is being an actor. I do more of that than directing. But there's just something about that, because it's such you know, you can underestimate how demanding running across a meadow is, to be honest. Even then, you fall over. And actually, I did fall over, and we kept it in the film. The first one I fall over, and the first one I faked, and the second one was real. And I said to everyone, "I'm going to fall over. Don't come and help me. You'll ruin the shot." And so I fell over and I sprained my ankle really badly, and no one came to help me. I told them not to. So just things like that, I guess. But you know, as a filmmaker, I kind of like to incorporate all those mistakes and accidents and strange things, because I kind of think that's the purpose of being an indie filmmaker. Is I like the controlled chaos of it. You know, I think
Yeah.
budget things are made with such scrutiny of every single detail, and it's very controlled. It leaves no space for spontaneity or organic decisions. And I sort of go, well, we're shooting this in a crazy punk style, so we should try and capture the little accidents and mistakes and strange things that happen. And I love it. To me, that's the point of filmmaking, is capturing all those moments and yeah, and enjoying them.
Well, it's very real and kind of reflective of the experience itself, which is neat. As you were kind of pitching the film over the course of its development, what were people's responses to you often?
Um, a lot of, I mean, people would say it's kind of bonkers, but people would quite often bring up the John Lennon joke as their favorite joke, which I would always be interested in, because I'd always think, oh, it's a fine line, that John Lennon joke, whether it's going to stay in, it might be too, I might go to hell for that joke, and in my head, I sort of persuade myself that John Lennon would have found it funny, or, I don't know. But there's just things like that because we made it in quite an unconventional way, it's a really unconventional film. There was no way that someone was going to make it that wasn't into how crazy the idea is. It sort of set out its stall as like, this is a crazy film. There's no compromising with it. It is what it is. I think that's why it remained really quite unchanged in the development process, because people either wanted it or they didn't. It's like, it is what it is. And it was such a joy to write, just her jumping these eras without sort of really laboring the point, because I think a lot of films do that. They over explain, or
Mm.
encouraged sometimes to over explain stuff in development, and I just didn't want to do that. I just wanted to take the audience on a ride, and not underestimate their intelligence to just get it. um so yeah, there was lots of stuff that people were like, this is crazy, this film.
Yeah, it has a wonderful whimsy about it, So, I know traditionally you work more full time as an actor and things, that you kind of alluded. What like what sort of did you feel like this film kind of gave you space to kind of like um, inhabit a different sort of character or a different sort of story than you normally were able to be told, or was it just that was just part of the fun of it?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy sort of create it's sort of the other way around for me, that like as an actor, I quite often feel like female roles are so cliched and um so rigid. You're either
Mm.
this or you're this. You're either a wife or a girlfriend, or you're a daughter or a secretary, and there's no nuance to it. They're all archetypes, they're all sort of cliches, and in a way that's what happens to Agnes, that she's suddenly thrown into these sort of stereotypical roles. And for me, there's an absurdity to that, and I like to play the absurdity of that. You might get some director saying to you, can you play it less awkward, or less, act like you know what you're doing. And I'm like, I think most of us are faking it in life. So for me, I love the awkwardness of the situation. And because I'm directing myself, I can go, I accept that performance. I like that performance. I think there's more truth in it than the artifice of someone being very like they know what they're doing, sort of
Right.
thing. Which
Yeah. That's an
for me, it's
interesting way to
creating
put
a
it. That
different.
we're all kind of a little bit faking it in some ways,
Yeah, exactly. And that film
Yeah.
is the film is exactly that. That everybody's sort of like, why am I in this costume? Why am I doing this? Why am I in this era? Oh, I've got a shit situation. Can I improve it? Why am I saying these lines? And to me, that's kind of the human condition in a way, that we're all faking it. And there's more honesty and sort of leaning into that. But I also think it's a new type of female character for me. I'm always trying to express a sort of new way of showing a female character in the way that she can be. And for me, it was really important that Agnes could be this sort of character that grows and learns, and she starts off naive and then she sort of gains power and knowledge. But she, there's a confusion to what she's doing, which to me, you need that for comedy. I think quite often in comedy now, there's a sense of like, we've got to have the female character really sensible and, she's the most intelligent person. I sometimes have directors or writers saying that to me when they want me to do a
Yeah.
role, like, she's the most intelligent person in it. And I'm like, oh, she's not very funny then. She will be the least funny person. So being able to play the fool is also a joy. I love being able to play the fool.
And do you think when you were kind of envisioning the story for the film, were there other types of kind of books or films that were kind of inspiring you in regards to his tonality, or was this all just kind of, riffing on, you know, the way that you kind of see life?
Um, I guess there's a big dose of how I see life in there automatically, because I see everything as funny and serious and not serious at the same time. But but I try to look at romance and what romance means in different media and different forms. So in different eras, one era romance might be within religion, and another era it might be within poetry, another era it might be within music. And it was Agnes's filter of romance. Like she's always puts a filter on top of everything that makes it romantic because she's so deluded. So it was really like the joy of it was kind of going, well, what were the romantic tropes? When did people start becoming self-obsessed? Because art forms are a lot to blame, I think. So there's lots of influences of paintings, from the Renaissance era and 18th century, and there's lots of influences from different novels and yeah, too many to mention, to be honest. Like there's a very big um, Pinterest board actually, which is just like all the film, and it's better to film as well because it's not the reality of those historical eras. It's like how films have depicted the different eras. So
Yeah.
I've got a big mood board which is Scarlett O'Hara lying in bed and how she was shown lying in bed and what that makes us think about a woman who's had a baby, and or that sort of thing. And that's all the way through it. That every single scene has got 10 different references about uh, how those stories are told in a sort of way that gets indelibly stuck in our heads about what we think about certain eras and stuff.
Well, it works really well, and I'm just so glad to have it as part of SF Indie Fest. For those that want to kind of can follow and recommend the film, but also just your other work, is there ways to go about doing that?
We are streaming to the US on the 14th of February, which is very fitting. I don't quite know what platform, but I know that in the UK it's available on Amazon and Now TV. So I imagine it's going to be widely available on the 14th.
Very cool. So everybody be on the lookout for that streaming wise.
Yeah.
Um, and well, just thanks again for being part of SF Indie Fest, Alice. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so lovely to know the film is being reborn in different countries and different places, and living another life and carrying on to live other lives in other festivals, which is always a joy.
Well, it's a very special film and it's very well deserved.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You too.